Have you ever wondered what it's for a song to become more than just a hit, to become a memory shared by an entire country? Because every day, thousands of new songs are released. New artists debut, new viral trends take over social media, songs explode overnight, only to disappear just as quickly. That's simply how the music industry works. The spotlight moves fast, attention shifts even faster, and yet, every once in a while, a song refuses to fade away. Long after the promotions have ended, long after the headlines have disappeared, long after people assume its moment has passed, it quietly begins climbing again. And that's exactly what's happening with BTS Jin. Nearly a year after releasing his emotional solo song Don't Say You Love Me, something incredible is happening thousands of miles away from Korea. Not just streaming, not just fan voting, not just social media. An entire country's radio listeners are still choosing Jin's voice. Again, and again, and again. In fact, they've now helped him accomplish something that almost sounds unbelievable. 27 consecutive weeks at number 1. Not 2 weeks, not 10 weeks, 27. More than half a year at the top of a major Mexican radio chart. But that's only the beginning of this story. Because behind that incredible statistic lies something much bigger. Something far more emotional. A connection between one artist and tens of thousands of people who don't even speak the same language. So how did Jin manage to build that kind of relationship? And why does Mexico seem to love him more with every passing month? Let's find out. According to reports released on July 31st, Jin's solo masterpiece, Don't Say You Love Me, has once again climbed to the number 1 position on House Radio's prestigious Ranking House chart. The chart, dated July 25th, confirmed something fans had already begun noticing. The song simply refuses to leave the top. Week after week, month after month, listeners continue requesting it. Radio stations continue playing it, and somehow, it continues winning. What's fascinating is that this isn't happening during the excitement of a brand new release. This isn't opening week. This isn't fueled by curiosity. This isn't driven by aggressive promotion. This is happening because people are still choosing the song. That difference matters. Anyone can have a successful release week. Millions of fans around the world wait for Jin's music. Of course they'll stream it. Of course they'll celebrate it. But remaining at the top after months have passed? That's a completely different challenge. That's when only songs with genuine staying power survive. Every week, radio stations have countless songs competing for airtime. New releases from global stars, local favorites, trending hits, summer anthems. Yet somehow, listeners continue asking for Jin. Imagine being a radio programmer. Every day you're deciding what people will hear. You have endless choices. But week after week, the audience keeps bringing one song back. That tells us something statistics alone never can. People aren't listening because they're told to. They're listening because they genuinely want to hear it again. And perhaps that's the greatest compliment any artist can receive. But here's where the story becomes even more remarkable. Because this isn't just about radio charts. It's about real people, real emotions, and one unforgettable day in Mexico City. Recently, BTS traveled to Mexico at the official invitation of Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. It was already an important occasion, but no one could ignore what happened next. As Jin appeared before the public, the streets transformed. Thousands of fans poured into the historic Zócalo square. Families, students, longtime army, new listeners, people of every generation. When the final estimates arrived, the number stunned everyone. Approximately 50,000 people. Take a second to imagine that. 50,000 people standing together. If you've ever attended a concert, you know how overwhelming even 10,000 people can feel. Now multiply that several times over. As far as the eye could see, there were fans. Some proudly held signs with Jin's name written across them. Others lifted photographs of his smiling face. Many carried RJ, the adorable alpaca character Jin personally created. For years, RJ has represented warmth, kindness, and comfort. Seeing thousands of those plush characters raised into the air created a scene almost impossible to describe. It looked less like a celebrity appearance and more like a heartfelt reunion. Then, something happened that no chart could ever measure. Without being told, without rehearsal, without preparation, the crowd began singing. Not a BTS group song, not one of the biggest global hits. they chose yours. Jin's emotional solo OST, thousands of voices echoed through one of the world's most famous public squares. Imagine standing there, hearing lyrics you've poured your heart into, coming back to you, sung by people living halfway across the world. People who grew up speaking Spanish, people whose lives are completely different, yet somehow they connected with your voice. That is the kind of moment numbers can never fully explain, because charts measure popularity, streams measure activity, but thousands of strangers singing your song together, that measures something else entirely. Love, respect, connection. Maybe that's why Don't Say You Love Me continues dominating Mexico. Because listeners aren't simply hearing the music, they're feeling it. Music has always had the power to cross borders. It doesn't need translation. Emotion translates itself. A beautiful melody, a sincere voice, an honest performance. Those things reach people regardless of language. And Jin has built a career around delivering exactly that. His voice doesn't rely on complicated tricks. It relies on emotion, gentleness, vulnerability, hope. Those qualities travel farther than words ever could. Perhaps that's why listeners can continue pressing play months after everyone expected the excitement to fade. Then comes another milestone, one that shows this isn't just happening in Mexico. Across the globe, Don't Say You Love Me has now surpassed 980 million streams on Spotify. 980 million. Pause for a moment and think about that number. If every stream represented a single heartbeat, the rhythm would never seem to end. If each stream lasted only a few minutes, people have collectively spent countless years listening to this song. Nearly 1 billion times. Someone chose Jin. Someone searched for his name. Someone pressed play. Someone replayed it because hearing it once wasn't enough. Some listened during happy moments. Others during heartbreak. Some while driving home after work. Some while studying late at night. Others while trying to heal from something nobody else knew about. That's the hidden beauty behind streaming numbers. Each stream represents a real human moment, a memory, an emotion, a story. And when those moments add up to 980 million, the achievement becomes almost impossible to comprehend. What's even more exciting is how close the next milestone has become. 1 billion. Only 20 million streams remain. For many artists, 1 billion streams is a once-in-a-career accomplishment. For Jin, it feels like another chapter waiting to be written. And if recent trends continue, that chapter may arrive sooner than anyone expected. House Radio clearly recognizes this extraordinary impact as well. For the second consecutive year, it's been selected as one of House Radio's K-pop artists. Even more impressively, Don't Say You Love Me was chosen in the station's K-pop song category. Awards come and go. Charts change every week. But earning consistent recognition year after year tells a different story. It says one thing: consistency. That's often harder than success itself. Anyone can experience one incredible year. Very few continue proving themselves again and again and again. Meanwhile, Jin isn't slowing down. As millions continue streaming his music online, he's also meeting fans face-to-face through the BTS World Tour, Arirang. Every city adds another chapter, another audience, another unforgettable memory. People leave those concerts with stories they'll tell for years. Many discover new appreciation for Jin's live vocals. Others finally meet the artist they've supported through a screen for so long. Every performance strengthens the bond. Every city expands the family. And somewhere, another listener discovers Don't Say You Love Me for the very first time. That's the remarkable thing about timeless songs. They're never truly finished finding new audiences. When you step back and look at everything together, the picture becomes extraordinary. 27 consecutive weeks at number 1 on Mexican radio, nearly 1 billion Spotify streams worldwide. Recognition from House Radio for 2 straight years. A crowd of approximately 50,000 people filling Zócalo Square. Thousands singing Yours together. Fans proudly lifting RJ into the air. None of these moments happen by accident. Together, they tell one powerful story. This isn't simply about popularity, it's about trust. It's about listeners returning because they know exactly how Jin's music makes them feel. Comforted, inspired, understood. That's something trends can't manufacture, algorithms can't create, and promotions alone can't sustain. It has to be earned. One listener at a time, one performance at a time, one song at a time. Perhaps that's why Jin's success feels different. He doesn't seem to chase moments. Instead, he creates memories. Months pass, new songs arrive, the industry keeps moving, yet somehow, his music continues finding its way back into people's hearts. Again and again and again. Maybe that's why Mexico continues embracing him so passionately. Maybe that's why radio listeners refuse to let Don't Say You Love Me disappear. Maybe that's why nearly 1 billion Spotify streams no longer feels impossible. Because when music becomes part of people's lives, it doesn't simply fade away. It grows, quietly, steadily, powerfully. So perhaps the biggest question isn't whether Jin can achieve another milestone. History suggests he probably will. The real question is, how many more countries will write stories like Mexico's? How many more crowds will sing his songs without being asked? How many more listeners will discover comfort in his voice? And when Don't Say You Love Me finally crosses that historic 1 billion stream mark, will it really be the end of its journey? Or simply the beginning of another incredible chapter? If Mexico has taught us anything, it's that Jin's music doesn't just travel across borders. It builds homes in people's hearts. And sometimes, those are the records that last the longest.